Hey, all you hockey card fans, welcome back to the channel. This is Hockey Night in Belmont, where we take a look at mainly hockey cards, but anything else that piques my interest. There's a lot of things, but time. Time is, ask me anything but time. I went back to eBay this time and bought some cards from a place called Dave's Unbased Cards on eBay. I'll leave a link in the description. He has a lot of cards for sale, but you got to bid on them as opposed to buying them outright. So you know how eBay works. You put a bid in and you get this guy who always snipes you at the end. I was going after a lot of cards and I had to snipe back and forth with some other guys to get these cards. There's a lot that I thought I would get, I lost out on. So I spent over 20 bucks on some cards. And let's go through them. These are going to be from 3 different sets. There's only 8 cards in all. But let's start off with the first one. First up, we got Minnesota North Star center Danny O'Shea. This is a rookie card. And it is from the 1969 O-PEE-CHEE set. This is the postage stamp set, where some of the cards had where you could put a little postage stamp. I love these cards. These are really good. They got a cool comics at the back. So Danny is one of the few Irish players in the NHL. Well, isn't that nice of him? Sorry, any Irish guys can make fun of my accent, even though I do have Irish blood in me. My great-grandfather came from County Antrim at a place called Nisnagunagog. And my great-great-grandfather was a Patterson from Tyrone. So I do have Irish blood, so forgive me. O'Shea had actually been with the Montreal Canadiens farm system and was traded from Montreal to Minnesota for a round 1 pick in the 1970 draft, which was Chuck Leafy, and round 1 pick in the 72 draft, Jerry Byers. Minnesota only kept this guy for 3 years, where he scored 39 goals in 3 seasons, the better part of 3 seasons. Traded to Chicago for Doug Moynes and Terry Caffrey. Then traded from Chicago Blackhawks to St. Louis Blues for Chris Bordelot. So I think Montreal won the deal because they got a number 1 pick in Leafy and then traded their other number 1 pick. So I don't know who won that deal. But anyway, let's go on. Next up, we have defenseman for the New York Rangers, Alan Hamilton. I actually have a few of his cards, but most of them are WHA. He played for the Alberta Edmonton Oilers in the WHA right up until they came back to the NHL, and he has 1 final NHL card. This is not his rookie card, even though he had not played any games. In fact, I'm going to say this card is an error card because he has played several games in the NHL. And his rookie card is 68-69, but he'd already played 4 games with the Rangers back in 66, 2 in 68, and then 16 games. So this is definitely an error card. They don't list his stats. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. But he played with the New York Rangers, went to the Buffalo Sabres, probably as part of their expansion draft in 70. And then jumped to the WHA in 72, 73. And stayed there right back until they came. So definitely an interesting card because they don't list his previous stats. At first I thought it was a rookie card, but when I looked them up online, I realized that they just didn't include his stats. And I know this player because I have his other cards. I have 2 of his WHA cards and his very last NHL card. Next up, we get a former first round number 1 overall draft pick from the 63 amateur draft, Gary Monahan, center for the Detroit Red Wings. Center for the Detroit Red Wings. Almost sound like Kripke there from Big Bang Theory. He'd actually been drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, first overall in '63. Only played 14 games with the Habs, never won a cup. Went to Detroit, which is this year. Then got traded halfway through to the LA Kings. Then spent 4.5 years with the Leafs before going to the Vancouver Canucks. Then going back to the Leafs for one last year. So this guy had been around. So he was traded from Montreal with Doug Piper to Detroit Red Wings for Bart Crashley and Pete Mahovlich in '69. Montreal won that deal. Getting Pete Mahovlich, Big Pete, to play with his brother Frank in Montreal. Huge deal. Then he was traded from Detroit Red Wings with Matt Ravlich, who I have, that card, and Brian Gibbons to LA for Gary Croteau, Dale Rolfe, and Larry Johnson. I'm going to say LA won that deal. Then he was traded from Toronto with John Grisdale to Vancouver Canucks for Dave Dunn. Hard to say who won that deal. Dave Dunn was a really good defenseman, though. For a guy who was picked first, well, the draft was not well established back then. A lot of teams still had their own farm systems, and these were the guys who didn't get processed through the farm system. They got overlooked. But he played 748 games with 116 goals, 285 assists, but only played 23 playoff games. So now we got winger for the Minnesota North Stars, Bill Goldsworthy. I already have this card, and I think Mike, and I've already replaced it with this one. This is the first card I got, because the one I got off eBay was in much better shape. Goldsworthy came through the Boston Bruins system before going to Minnesota, and spent a lot of years in Minnesota before going to the Rangers in '76, and then jumped to the W, played with the Indianapolis Racers and the Edmonton Oilers. So he got to play with Wayne Gretzky. So when Minnesota picked him up, he was from the expansion draft, was a captain at one time. He's also an all-star. I have his all-star card from a couple years after this one. He was traded from Minnesota to New York Rangers for Nick Beverly and Bill Fairbairn. I don't think that trade did New York any good or Minnesota any good. So there we have it. 4 cards from that set. One I already have a double because I was bidding on so many things that I just lost track of what it was, which kind of sucks. Next up we have, these are from the 1969-70 set. So this is Boston Bruins' first Stanley Cup win. For the Toronto Maple Leaf center, Norm Ullman. He's in the Hockey Hall of Fame and was a 2-time All-Star. Played a lot of years with the Detroit Red Wings from 1955 to 1968. Never won a cup with them. I am very surprised. I thought they won a cup in that period. But Montreal was such a powerhouse. They went to a finals. Then he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs from 68 to 75. Never won a cup with Toronto. And then was with the Edmonton Oilers for 2 years. So I'm kind of surprised he never won a Stanley Cup in the Hockey Hall of Fame. 1,400 NHL games, 490 goals, 1,229 points. So really good player. Got traded from Detroit Red Wings with Doug Barry, Paul Henderson, and Floyd Smith to Toronto for rights to Carl Brewer, Frank Mahovlich, Pete Stemkowski, and Gary Younger. I don't know who won that trade, because Frank Mahovlich is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Gary Younger was an Iron Man. Pete Stemkowski became a really good player with the Rangers. Carl Brewer, obviously, with the Leafs and the St. Louis Blues. But Paul Henderson scored that game-winning goal. So that's a Floyd Smith. Interesting deal. All right, now next we get a rookie card here. Same year. These are called the Movie Star set because they have the little lights in the backdrop. We got right winger for the Buffalo Sabres, Cliff Schmatz. It's a rookie card. You can see the little dots here. It's called the Movie Star set. He is either the brother or the cousin of Bobby Schmutz, who played for the Vancouver Canucks and Boston Bruins. This is his one and only card. He played 26 games with Buffalo and then was traded to Philadelphia and played another 31 games. But in 57 games, he had 13 goals and 19 assists for 32 points. So I don't know why he didn't get another shot. So he's claimed in the interleague draft by the Buffalo Sabres from the Portland Buckaroos. So he wasn't even drafted. Then he's claimed off waivers by Philadelphia from Buffalo. I don't know why. Stats aren't bad for what it was. But what can you do? Now we're going to go to the 1972-73 stat year. So 1973 O-PEE-CHEE set. So Montreal won the Stanley Cup. Henri Richard's last Stanley Cup. We have left winger New York Islanders Brian Spencer. Gotta love that card. I love the action cards. This set had interesting. Half the set had a red border, and the other set, half of the set had a green border. In the United States, they also have blue and yellow borders for this set. It's the only time they've ever done that, O-PEE-CHEE. So it's kind of unique for the time. Brian Spencer played with the Leafs. In fact, he was a round 5, 55th overall pick in the 1969 amateur draft. Went to the New York Islanders, the Buffalo Sabres, and finally the Pittsburgh Penguins. I know I have his card with the Sabres and the Penguins. So in part of the expansion draft in 72 to the Islanders, and then traded from New York Islanders to Buffalo Sabres for Doug Romball. I would say Buffalo won that deal. Not a bad. He was a third, fourth line guy. 553 games, 80 goals. Nothing special. And finally, the last card in this set. We got Boston Bruins left winger Wayne Cashman. All-star player, longtime Boston Bruin. Played over 1,000 games for the Boston Bruins, won 2 Stanley Cups, scored 277 goals, had 793 assists, played 145 playoff games, and had 88 points. So a really good player for Boston. Retired in 1983. I have many of his cards. He had also been in the 72 Summit Series, but he only played 2 games. Not in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which surprised me when I found out. I always assumed he was. But can't have everyone in there. Played for some really good Boston teams with Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito. And was on the All-Star team once. So all these cards are in really good shape, except for this Goalworthy because I've already traded them out. Here's the original Goldsworthy that I have, which is in much better shape, so I swapped him. Already swapped them. So if anyone's looking for a Bill Goldsworthy of that year, let me know and I'll ship it out to you. But anyway, there we got it. 8 cards from eBay. Like I said, Dave's Unbased Cards. I'll leave a link in the description. Pretty good guy, fast shipping, all that other fun stuff. And all you hockey card fans, let me know what you guys think of this haul. And until next time, this has been Hockey Night in Belmont. I'm out of here.